My name is Cindy MACHETT. I am a celebrant in Boston, Massachusetts, but I am also an installation artist, and it is this perspective I want to bring to you today. When we look at a painting, we usually stand in one spot, face the painting directly, stare for a few minutes, and move on. When we look at a sculpture, we might walk around a little bit to see it a little bit more. But an installation artist tries to draw on all of our senses to make the visit an experience, which is what we do in our ceremonies. The artist thinks about how the viewer enters the art space, what it smells like, how it is lit, what it sounds like, how other people fit in, and how they move around in it. They think like architects, like choreographers, like stage directors, like filmmakers. And the more of this that we can bring to our ceremonies, the richer the experience will be for everyone. So let's look at this room just for a minute. This display here is in a little bit of an arch, which is echoed by these chairs that are in a little bit of an arch. And these chairs are a little bit tall because we are in a little bit of a position of authority with our supposed wisdom. But the arch connects us in a feeling of a circle. And all of you are sitting close together and near us, which emphasizes the collective part of the wisdom, that we as alumni and faculty learn as much from you as you do from us, and it makes us all a connected family. And I'm sure that people were thinking about this when they set this up. Now, for example, if I were to turn off some of the lights, and maybe if this was a wedding and people were set up in front of the windows, it would be a very different feeling in here. And that would be something that you might want to think about if this couple specifically chose this spot because they love the water and the boats. I usually have a wireless mic. If I were to ask you all to stand, please do, and to face in towards the aisle. I'll come as far as I can. If this were another wedding and I wanted to invite the couple to come forward, they would be in front of me and we would stand here and I might tell some of their story, and then maybe we would all read a blessing to them right before they do their vows, so that we're all a part of that important moment and they feel the love of their guests right before they make their promises to each other. Now you can be seated. Another thing that I might do would be to invite a family up here, maybe for a baby blessing, and I would stand all the way at the back and face the family and maybe speak about them as a witness, that I am actually behind the community, speaking for the community as they witness the new family. So when you start thinking like this, there's just a lot that you can start playing with. I performed a wedding for a man and a woman and their little girl in their canoe on a lake. So space is not even necessarily a room. The lake was their favorite place to go fishing as a family. And the processional actually began at the house. as the couple and both sets of parents wrangled canoes onto their cars while their daughter picked daisies, which she later threw into the water as we paddled out into the lake. We then set off in a caravan down to the lake nearby. And then we all took our boats off. My husband and I had our own canoe on our car. And then we had to scramble down this rocky, steep hill down to the water. This was really the hero's journey just to get there. And then we gathered with some guests who were going to stay on land. And we knew that. We didn't have enough boats. So we did a pre-ceremony on land where we talked about what we were going to do and told a little bit of the story there because they weren't going to be able to hear from the water. And then that group helped to launch the couple out onto the water with their parents and their daughter, and we sort of lashed ourselves together out there and did the vows and their promises, and then we came back to land and did a sand ceremony to incorporate the family. Then we had to take the boats all back up the hill, put them back on the car, and then we went back to their house and had cake, and they were thrilled. But there was so much to think about that was much more than just that actual ceremony. And we had to think about what to wear, what if we tipped over, what to do with our shoes, and the rings. We actually were very worried that the rings would go over the sides, so someone figured out to put them in a Ziploc bag and blow air into the bag so it made like a little pillow, and so they would float, and that worked well, and we didn't tip over, so that was good. We had to think about the weather because a storm was coming, and that was really going to affect us. But it didn't. That passed too. And then they left their boats on because after the cake, they were all going to go back and just spend the afternoon on the lake together fishing, which I thought was perfect. In another scenario, I married a lesbian couple in an oval-shaped garden, and we talked a lot about how they wanted to come in, and they wanted it to feel very traditional, but they didn't want traditional processional. They both were in beautiful white dresses, and we finally worked it out so that they stood at each end of the oval with their families. And then we started the music, and one family member from each side entered alternately. So they walked from one end around the curve to here, and then walked in and took their seats. And then someone from the other family came in and went and sat down. So they did that till the whole family was in. Their siblings came in last. And then they had their own cue, and everybody could see them. Everybody had turned around to watch. And they each, at the same time, walked around that same curve, met at the back here, and then came in together holding hands. And it was beautiful. And they really felt that represented how they came to this marriage together and what their relationship was like. So when you're thinking about space, there's a lot to consider, and some of this, we'll do in the Q&A, because I could talk about this forever. But there's things to think about, like staging any rituals you do so that the guests can see and everyone can move around the space. Choreographing readers and family members and how they're going to move around the space. Doing ceremonies in the round, which is something we often get requests for and really have to, there's some serious logistics with doing that, and we can talk about that. And also, you want to think about if the couple is trying to emphasize anything with space, to go ahead and feel free and work that into some of what you're saying, to draw attention to some of these decisions that they're making. So that's what I have to say about space, and I look forward to your questions.